I'm Lucas Bennett, widower, father to Ellie, my disabled daughter and assistant to the district attorney. This is our fight. 6 years ago, my wife Hannah died in a plane crash, leaving me to raise Ellie alone. Ellie, now 11, has osteogenesis imperfecta, a condition that makes her bones brittle and confines her to a wheelchair. Her laughter, though, is stronger than steel. We moved to Cedar Hollow, a gated community in southern Maryland, seeking accessibility and a fresh start. As the assistant to the county DA, I worked long hours but stayed close to Ellie, balancing court filings with her therapy and bedtime stories. Cedar Hollow's smooth paths and community parks seemed ideal, but I didn't anticipate the venom of Lori Mitchell, the HOA president who turned our haven into a nightmare. Cedar Hollow was sold as a family-friendly retreat, but Lori, a 59-year-old former bank manager with a sharp bob and a tyrant's heart, ran it like her personal fiefdom. Her HOA rules were suffocating: no non-standard mailboxes, no kids' toys on lawns, even bans on certain paint colors. Her community values were a facade for domination, enforced with fines and public berating. I brushed off her early emails about my porch light being too warm. Ellie's care braces, doctor visits kept me focused elsewhere. But Lori's fixation soon targeted us, starting with cutting remarks that grew into a campaign of hate. It began at a Labor Day barbecue in the park. Ellie and I arrived, her wheelchair rolling smoothly over the accessible path I'd pushed the county to install. Neighbors greeted us, kids offering Ellie lemonade and admiring her glittery wheelchair decals. Lori, stationed by the grill, watched with a scowl. As I pushed Ellie toward the dessert table, Lori intercepted, her voice syrupy but venomous. "Lucas, Ellie's a dear, but that chair's a bit obtrusive for events. Maybe a less flashy model." I forced a calm tone, my DA training kicking in. "Her wheelchair's her mobility." "Lori, she's fine." She sniffed and walked away, but her eyes promised trouble. Lori's attacks escalated through the fall. She issued citations for excessive traffic when Ellie's occupational therapist visited, claiming the car disrupted the street. She called our ramp a property eyesore, though it met ADA standards. Neighbors whispered about her grudge but stayed silent, intimidated by her power. Lori's HOA board, a loyal posse of her friends, endorsed her every whim. She'd fined a family $1,000 for an unapproved bird bath and threatened to lien another's home over a garden gnome. I kept my cool, but my tolerance was fraying. The real battle started in spring when Ellie discovered the community park's playground. She loved the sensory garden, where I'd lift her from her chair to touch the flowers, her giggles echoing. The park, with its wide paths and shaded benches, was her joy. But Lori saw Ellie's presence as a blemish. One sunny afternoon, as Ellie smelled lavender, Lori marched over, clipboard in hand. "Lucas, this playground isn't suited for her condition," she said loudly. Drawing stares. "It's a liability." I stood firm. "Ellie's no liability, Lori. She has every right to be here." She stormed off, but I knew she was scheming. By summer, Lori's vendetta crystallized. She posted signs around Cedar Hollow: no mobility devices in park areas for safety and aesthetics. It was a direct assault on Ellie. At the HOA meeting, I called her out. "This is illegal, Lori. The ADA protects Ellie's access." She smirked, leaning back. "Lucas, the HOA prioritizes harmony. If you don't comply, move." Murmurs filled the room. A few neighbors backed her, but others shifted uneasily. I left furious and contacted a colleague, Clara, lawyer, specializing in disability rights. She confirmed the signs violated federal law, but legal battles were slow, and Lori was counting on that. Tensions boiled into July. Lori's allies ostracized us. Someone spray-painted "Leave" on our garage door, and I reported it as vandalism, but no leads surfaced. Ellie noticed the cold glances, asking, "Why's Lori so mean?" "Daddy," I hugged her, hiding my rage. "She's scared of your light, Ellie." "We'll fix this." Lori's arrogance soared. She bragged on social media about perfecting Cedar Hollow, her photos showcasing a sterile suburb. She fined kids for chalk drawings, calling them defacement. The community was suffocating, but I stood firm. The park became our battleground. Lori patrolled daily, scolding kids for noise and banning certain games. Ellie still wanted to visit the garden, so I took her, defying Lori's glares. Each trip was a gauntlet. She'd mutter about hazards, eyeing Ellie's wheelchair while I stayed vigilant, my DA instincts sharp. Some neighbors offered quiet support, Others echoed Lori's rules' first mantra. I overheard her call Ellie a burden at a picnic. My blood boiled, but I held back for Ellie's sake. On a sweltering August afternoon, everything shattered. The park was bustling, families enjoying a community picnic. Ellie was in her wheelchair touching daisies in the sensory garden. Her smile radiant, I stood nearby watching her joy. Lori arrived, her clipboard gone, replaced by a manic energy. She scanned the park, her gaze locking on Ellie. Then she strode to the ramp, a new accessible feature, and taped up a sign. No wheelchairs on ramps. Effective immediately, gas spread. A neighbor, Mr. Chen, whispered. She's gone too far. I stepped forward, but Lori was already charging toward Ellie. Lucas, this chair's a danger. Lori bellowed, her voice carrying over the park. It's blocking the ramp. Ellie's wheelchair was parked safely on flat ground, nowhere near the ramp. I moved closer. Lori, that's Ellie's lifeline. Back off. She ignored me, her face red with fury. I'm enforcing the rules, she spat. Then in a horrifying flash, she grabbed Ellie's wheelchair and shoved it with force, sending it and Ellie crashing off the ramp's edge. Ellie screamed, "Daddy!" As she hit the ground, the chair twisting under her. A sickening crack echoed her spine. Chaos erupted. Parents rushed forward, kids crying. I dove to Ellie, my heart pounding, cradling her as she whimpered in pain. Mr. Chen called 911 while others filmed the video, later going viral. Lori stood frozen, then sneered. She shouldn't be here. I looked up, my voice deadly. You just hurt my daughter, Lori. You're done. She laughed, oblivious. You're just a whiny dad. I stood, pulling my DA badge from my pocket. I'm the district attorney's assistant. Lori, you're under arrest for assault and endangering a child? Her jaw dropped. The crowd hushed. Police arrived, sirens blaring, and I handed her over, my focus on Ellie. The park descended into pandemonium as police cuffed Lori, her smug facade crumbling into a mix of shock and defiance. Her voice pierced the chaos. This is a mistake. I'm protecting our community. But the neighbors gathered in a stunned semicircle weren't buying it. Ellie lay in my arms, her face pale, her whimpers cutting through my soul. Her wheelchair, twisted from the fall, sat abandoned nearby. I whispered, "Hold on, Ellie. Daddy's here." My voice steady, despite the rage boiling inside. Paramedics rushed in their urgency, amplifying the gravity of her injury. This wasn't just an assault. It was the spark that would ignite Lori's downfall and Cedar Hollow's awakening. An ambulance arrived, its lights flashing against the park's sycamores. Paramedics carefully lifted Ellie onto a stretcher, stabilizing her neck and back, her fragile bones, a critical concern. The lead medic, a calm man named Tom, warned of a possible spinal fracture and urged immediate hospital transport. I rode with her, holding her hand as she fought tears. My DA training keeping me composed while my heart screamed. Police took Lori to the station, and neighbors followed in cars. A convoy of solidarity that stunned me. Mr. Chen, his face etched with guilt, promised to meet us at the ER. Cedar Hollow was stirring, and Lori's cruelty had lit the fuse. At the hospital, X-rays and MRIs confirmed the worst, a compression fracture in Ellie's lower spine, exacerbating her condition and requiring surgery to stabilize it. Dr. Larson, the neurosurgeon, was blunt but hopeful. She'll need a brace and months of rehab, but kids like Ellie are fighters, he said. I nodded, guilt clawing at me. I'd seen Lori's hostility, but hadn't anticipated her violence. Ellie, groggy from sedatives, squeezed my finger. You got her, Daddy, she murmured. Her faith humbled me, but it also steeled my resolve. She deserved justice, and I'd deliver it. Back home that night, after Ellie was stabilized post-surgery, I sat by her hospital bed watching her sleep. Her new brace, a bulky reminder of Lori's act, didn't dim her peaceful expression. My phone buzzed with notifications. The neighbor's video of the attack had gone viral on X, amassing millions of views. The footage was gut-wrenching: Lori's furious shove, Ellie's scream, the wheelchair's crash. Comments flooded in branding. Lori a monster and Ellie a warrior. Hunash's shirts, Cedar Hollow, Karen trended, and news outlets clamored for interviews. I ignored them, focusing on Ellie and the legal battle ahead. The next morning, I met with Claire, my lawyer colleague, at my office in the DA's suite. She'd reviewed the video and witness statements, her expression grim. Lori's facing aggravated assault, child endangerment, and ADA violations. She said the video's damning, but her connections, local elites, and HOA cronies might muddy things. I filed a formal complaint with the DOJ's ADA division, which opened an investigation into the HOA's discriminatory practices. The no wheelchair signs were removed by evening, but the damage lingered. Ellie's spine was fractured, and Cedar Hollow's trust was broken. Lori's first court appearance was a media frenzy. She arrived in a crisp suit, her lawyer spinning a tale of accidental contact and community protection. Lori claimed she'd only meant to move the wheelchair, insisting Ellie's fall was unfortunate. The lie was absurd, and the video played in court obliterated her story. Ellie's cry echoed, and Lori's face twitched. Judge Reynolds, a stern former prosecutor, set a steep bail citing the heinous act. Lori's allies paid it, but her reputation was unraveling. Her social media, once a shrine to Cedar Hollow's excellence, was flooded with outrage, forcing her to deactivate her accounts. Cedar Hollow's reaction was explosive. At an emergency HOA meeting, residents packed the community center, their fury palpable. I attended Ellie still in the hospital, her brace a constant reminder of why I was there. Mr. Chen took the mic, his voice shaking. Lori ruled us with fear, fines, threats. Now, this we're done. The room roared. A quiet widow, Mrs. Patel, shared how Lori had fined her $1 $200 for a non-compliant porch light, forcing her to skip medication. Stories poured out. Families, bullied kids, silenced gardens destroyed. The HOA board cornered, suspended Lori, and announced elections. But the crowd demanded more. Lori's loyalists fought back. A handful of neighbors wedded to her standards posted on X that Ellie's presence provoked the incident, claiming wheelchairs disrupted the park. One wrote Bennett's abusing his DA clout to ruin Lori. The backlash was fierce. X users shredded them, and the posts vanished. But the division stung Ellie home from the hospital, overheard a neighbor's kid whisper, "Her dad's causing drama." She looked at me, eyes wet. "Am I trouble, Daddy?" I hugged her tight. "You're a gift, Ellie, they're learning." I swore to protect her from the noise while dismantling Lori's legacy. The community began to heal. Mrs. Patel organized a Bloom for Ellie event in the park, raising funds for her medical bills and a new wheelchair. Families showed up, kids decorating Ellie's brace with stickers while parents planted flowers. A new park sign read, "All welcome." Ellie, propped on a bench, giggled as friends drew hearts on her brace. But Lori's shadow loomed. Her lawyer filed motions to dismiss, arguing lack of intent and public pressure. Claire countered with statements from Mr. Chen, the park's teen volunteer, and others who'd witnessed Lori's months-long vendetta. The case was airtight, but Lori's defiance tested my restraint. By fall, the trial neared, and Cedar Hollow was changing. The HOA elections ousted Lori's board, electing Mrs. Patel and Mr. Chen, who prioritized accessibility. They installed a wheelchair-accessible garden bed funded by donations. Neighbors defied Lori's rules. Vibrant flower beds sprouted. Kids drew chalk murals, and a family hung a tire swing. Lori's sterile vision was fading, replaced by life. But Ellie struggled. Nightmares of the fall haunted her, and she flinched at sudden movements. Her therapist, Dr. Carter, helped her cope. But I blame myself. I should have stopped Lori earlier. The trial began in October. A media storm. Reporters swarmed the courthouse. An X buzzed with updates. Lori testified, her voice trembling, claiming she'd panicked and never meant to hurt Ellie. Her lawyer painted her as a dedicated leader, undone by a misstep. Claire dismantled the act, presenting Lori's text to her board, calling Ellie a nuisance and plotting to drive Bennett out. The video played again, Ellie's scream silencing the room. The teen volunteer Sam testified about Lori's relentless bullying, his voice steady. Mr. Chen recounted the garage vandalism, linking it to Lori's allies. The jury's faces hardened. Lori's defense called her cronies, who mumbled about park safety, but their claims crumbled. Claire's closing argument was fierce. Lorraine Mitchell didn't just break Ellie's spine, she broke our trust, targeting a child for her disability. Justice demands accountability. The jury deliberated for 6 hours. The verdict: guilty on all counts: aggravated assault, child endangerment, and harassment. Lori's face crumpled. Judge Reynolds sentenced her to 5 years in prison, $30,000 in restitution, and mandatory ADA training. The courtroom cheered, and I exhaled, relief flooding me. Cedar Hollow exhaled too. Lori's imprisonment ended her grip, and her house sold to a family who planted a wildflower garden. The DOJ's investigation fined the HOA $70,000 redirecting funds to accessibility upgrades. Ellie's new wheelchair with Daisy decals arrived and she named it Sunbeam. She tested it in the park, rolling to the garden as Sam watered nearby, her laughter returning. I watched my throat tight, knowing she was reclaiming her joy. The guilty verdict was a thunderbolt shattering Lori's iron grip on Cedar Hollow and igniting a surge of renewal. As winter blanketed southern Maryland in a thin layer of snow, I poured my heart into Ellie's recovery, her body, her spirit, and into nurturing the community's awakening. Lori's 5-year sentence silenced her influence, her allies fading into the background, their power dissolving like frost in sunlight. Her former house, now home to a young family with a playful puppy, bloomed with colorful garden lights, a defiant rejection of her sterile standards. But healing was a steep climb. Ellie's spinal injury required ongoing care, her trust in the world fragile, and I wrestled with the guilt of not stopping Lori sooner. Yet Ellie's resilience, her soft giggles, her unyielding spirit kept me grounded. Cedar Hollow was transforming. Mrs. Patel and Mr. Chen, the new HOA leaders, launched a Cedar Cares initiative, hosting workshops on disability inclusion and community strength. The park's accessible garden bed built for Ellie became a gathering spot for all kids, planted tulips. A veteran with a prosthetic arm tended herbs, and an elderly neighbor rolled her walker to join. Ellie's wheelchair, now a symbol of courage, was a constant presence. Kids taping butterfly stickers to its wheels during a spring fair. At a community tree lighting, Ellie flipped the switch, her brace visible, but her smile brighter. Neighbors cheered, and I saw defiance in her eyes, a light Lori couldn't extinguish. Not everyone embraced the shift. A few of Lori's holdouts, led by a smug accountant named Roger, complained about the overblown accessibility upgrades, claiming they ruined the park's aesthetic. Roger posted on X, "This HOA is wasting dues on one girl's needs." The response was fierce. Residents flooded his post with photos of Ellie in the garden, captioned, "This is home." Roger's wife, mortified, dragged him to a neighborhood coffee meetup to apologize. We followed Lori out of fear. She admitted. I nodded, understanding their silence, but relieved they were evolving. Cedar Hollow's change was uneven, but it was taking hold. Ellie's therapy with Dr. Carter was a lifeline. She drew the attack, her crayons turning the ramp into a cliff with Lori's face. Dr. Carter helped her reframe it, casting Ellie as a phoenix rising from the fall. One session, Ellie brought home a drawing of herself in her wheelchair, wings spread, labeled Phoenix Ellie. I hung it above her desk next to her Daisy sketches. "I'm not broken, Daddy," she said, her voice firm. Her nightmares dwindled, replaced by dreams of flowers and friends. I marveled at her strength, knowing she was reshaping my world as much as Cedar Hollow's. Legally, Lori's case wasn't fully closed. She appealed her conviction, arguing the viral video's publicity biased the jury. Claire, our lawyer, was unfazed, filing a civil suit for Ellie's medical costs and emotional distress. The appeal dragged into spring, but Lori's chances were slim. The video texts and testimonies were a noose. The DOJ's investigation concluded, mandating annual 80 audits for the HOA. The $70,000 fine funded a wheelchair-accessible playground slide, with Ellie choosing the color Daisy yellow. At the opening, she rolled down first, giggling as kids followed. The local paper ran a photo, "Ellie Bennett blooms in Cedar Hollow." Lori's prison time seemed to shift her, at least on paper. A year in, she sent a letter to Ellie and me, her handwriting shaky. She apologized, claiming her obsession with order had blinded her to humanity. She mentioned her ADA training, saying it opened her eyes. I read it with a DA's skepticism, unsure if it was genuine or a parole tactic. Ellie, wiser than her 11 years, shrugged. "She can be sorry, Daddy, but I don't need her." I hugged her, awed by her clarity. I didn't reply to Lori. Her words couldn't undo Ellie's pain, and our focus was on thriving. Cedar Hollow's revival spread beyond Ellie families, silenced by Lori's fines. A couple harassed for their rainbow flag, a widow scolded for her untidy roses, found their voices. The Cedar Cares program grew, hosting picnics where neighbors shared stories of Lori's tyranny. One evening, a teen boy confessed Lori had fined his family for a loud drum practice, forcing them to sell his kit. The room rallied, and by morning, yards sprouted signs, "Grow free." Lori's monochrome world was gone, replaced by a mosaic of color and courage. My role as the DA's assistant took on new meaning. I'd always seen my work as a pursuit of justice, but now I fought for inclusion, advising the DA on accessibility policies and speaking at county meetings about equitable spaces. Colleagues teased me as DA Dad, and I owned it, bringing Ellie to community outreach events. She handed out daisy stickers explaining how gardens make everyone happy. When the township approved an accessible rec center, Ellie unveiled the plaque, her wheelchair gleaming. "This is for all of us," she said, and I choked up. She was rewriting Cedar Hollow's heart. By summer a year after the attack, the park was a riot of life. Kids planted marigolds, parents shared harvests, and the playground buzzed with laughter. Ellie, her brace less restrictive, visited the garden daily, Sam helping her prune. He'd started a youth gardening club inspired by Ellie's grit at a community barbecue. Mrs. Patel unveiled a plaque by the garden bed, "Ellie's Haven, where all bloom." Ellie gasped, whispering, "That's me, Daddy." The crowd clapped, and I fought tears. This was the Cedar Hollow I'd fought for, a place where Ellie shone. Lori's release came quietly in the fall after 32 months with good behavior. She moved to a small apartment across town, her banking career dead. A neighbor saw her at a grocery store looking older. Quieter, I didn't gloat. Her punishment was losing the control she'd wielded like a club. On X, a few loyalists mourned her standards, but most posts celebrated Cedar Hollow's rebirth. One read, "From Mirage Cedar Hollow, Karen to Mirage Cedar Cares." "Thank you, Ellie." I showed it to Ellie and she grinned. "I'm famous, Daddy." Ellie's 12th birthday was a park extravaganza planned by her gardening club. The garden was decked with daisies, and a cake shaped like a phoenix sat on a picnic table. Sam led a seed planting game, and kids took turns in the accessible bed calling it Ellie's Kingdom. Mrs. Patel gave a speech, her voice thick. Ellie and Lucas showed us what strength is. "Here's to them and to us." Cheers erupted. Ellie, in a daisy dress, raised her juice cup. "To Cedar Hollow," she shouted. I joined in, my heart full. This was her triumph. The party stretched into dusk, fireflies dancing over the garden. Ellie rolled to me, her eyes bright. "Daddy, I'm happy here." I knelt, hugging her. "You made it happy, Ellie." She laughed, then zoomed off to join her friends. I watched the pain of the past year easing. Lori's cruelty had wounded us, but Ellie's spirit had healed us. Cedar Hollow wasn't just a suburb. It was a testament to a girl who turned pain into purpose. As winter loomed, I took Ellie to Hannah's grave, our annual ritual. She placed a daisy on the headstone, whispering, "Mom, we're okay." I told Hannah about Ellie's victory. The gardens bloomed. The breeze felt like her smile. Back home, Ellie showed me a new drawing. Phoenix Ellie soaring over a garden. Neighbors waving. "This is us," she said. I hung it by her first sketch, knowing our story was still growing, rooted in struggle, flowering with love. Cedar Hollow kept evolving. The HOA won a state award for inclusivity, and Ellie spoke at the ceremony, her voice clear. She rolled out in a cape Sam made. Grinning for photos, I stood back, my DA pride in her boundless. Lori was a ghost, her tyranny replaced by a community that saw Ellie's light. As spring neared, Ellie planned a garden festival insisting on accessible paths. "Everyone grows," she said. I laughed, agreeing. She'd taught me that joy was the fiercest rebellion. Years later, the attack was a crucible that forged us. Ellie grew into an advocate, studying law to fight for others. Cedar Hollow remained her home. Its gardens etched with her courage. Lori faded into obscurity, a cautionary tale. But Ellie, she was a legend, her wheelchair a chariot of change. And me, I was her dad, forever grateful for the girl who transformed a town and my heart with her unbreakable bloom.